Things aren't as they seem. It all looks fine from a glass screen. When the wall crashes down between the cracks.
Hey y'all, it's your good sis Erica Vane back again with another Gossip Girl video. And in this video, we are breaking down episode 5, and it's good. Let's talk about it. This episode picks up kind of where we left off. However, Zoya and Julien are now functioning in a more healthy place. They are actually publicly embracing each other. They start the episode off sitting together, chatting, and we see Zoya start to be integrated into the friend group for real this time, not in a manipulated way, in a way that she actually can show up as herself. But before we get into Julien and Zoya and what they got going on, the episode actually starts off with a kid that's being bullied at another school, a rival school, more on that later, brings a gun to school, and then this exposes Gossip Girl throughout the city. So the parents of the kid is blaming Gossip Girl for being a negative platform, a center for bullying to be able to happen, and a facilitator for this type of incidents or this type of negative attention being brought upon the students. And that's interesting because I like that they were able to take it and make it have a more meaningful consequence, even though gun violence, guns in schools are not something to play with. I definitely am glad that they actually are started to include that into the conversation. And that is followed up by Max and creepy teacher guy. I really gotta get his name together, but now he's just creepy teacher guy. Max servicing him in school because that's okay, you know. Yeah. Then we're back with our fab friends and we get the rundown on this Halloween, the Halloween costume contest, why it's important, more rigmarole about how Julien must maintain her status and her influence and her going up against these two girls from this other school, which had the guy who came to school with the gun, and more trivial BS problems, right? Okay, cool. Great. What I will say is that this episode was seasoned also with some real meat and potatoes in reference to storylines and real issues that matter. I think I'm starting to realize that I struggle the most with the Gossip Girl episodes that feel like they don't have any meat to them, that feel like they're all just about how many followers someone has or whatever mess that they're in, and not necessarily speaking to what's happening to each person behind the scenes or an interpersonal level or with any type of self-actualization. In this episode, we get to see Audrey go through it with her mom again, which I'm really liking the way this storyline is shaping up because they're having a really amazing conversation. Audrey's mom wants to move them out of the city to Connecticut, and Audrey just thinks that it's the worst idea in the world. She equates the house that they're moving to some type of shanty, and her friends have to remind her, like, girl, it's on a 5-acre estate. Like, it's not like you're going from being rich to poor. You're going from being rich to less rich. And for her, she just doesn't want to leave all of her friends, leave the school, leave the city that she loves, leave everything that she knows. And she goes about it in a very, destructive way, in a way that compromises her mother's emotional and mental health. But I understand it. And then by the end of the episode, when we see her mom have an accident and go to the hospital, by then we really get the full range of the consequences of how they're behaving to each other on both sides. So throughout their conversation, Audrey tries. She lashes out at her mom. Then she invites all her mom's friends over in the hopes to remind her of what she loves about New York. Like, she's trying everything to get her mom to want to stay in New York, to not want to sell the apartment, to not want to uproot their lives and completely run away. And that winds up backfiring because her mom isn't receptive to initial conversations. They are fighting, and then when she invites her friends over, she doesn't realize that she separated herself from her friends, or she's in a process of alienating herself from her friends because she's embarrassed, because she's humiliated, because she's been demoralized, because she's still processing all of the grief around the affair, around her business loss, the bankruptcy, and all of the things going on. So while Audrey's mom has not been supportive, has been absentee, and has done some questionable things, you cannot help but empathize with her because you can actually feel what she's feeling and what she's going through. And she's a woman who is in pain and who is really struggling. And I do think that this is one of the strongest storylines that we have going on. By the end of the episode, when Audrey arrives at the hospital and then the doctor tells her, like, it's going to be a long road to recovery, you kind of see it land on her of like how she has to do a better job of showing up for her mom. And then even that is still part of the backdoor conversation of like how much responsibility should be on your child when it comes to y'all's lifestyle. Audrey has had had to do so much. She's cooking, she's cleaning, she's helping, taking care of her mother. And it seems like she was doing these things before the divorce actually came about or the affair actually came about. So she's already had a lot on her shoulders. And now it's like you can see by the end of this episode, she's going to willingly walk into it and she wants to be able to do whatever she can to support her mom. So while you still see her assuming so much responsibility, you see her doing it from a more grounded and secure place. And that is one of the things that I definitely loved about this episode. And then in addition to, while Audrey is processing this, we've seen this throughout the other episodes, but I don't think we have seen it as strongly as we see it in this episode, where Audrey is making a cry out to her friends to support her in the pain that she's feeling with her struggles with her mother. And she actually vocalizes this to Aki at the party when he's like, oh, you're acting like your mother, you're drunk and you're doing this and she's doing that. And she's like, well, what do you know? She just wanted to get attention from the people that she loves, just like I want to get attention from the people that I love right now. And it was just such a great vocalization of what was actually going on. And I just loved how they actually did Audrey's storyline in this episode. Overall, I will say, let me get this out the way. Overall, I will say I like the episode because we also got exposed to, you know, Kate and Nicholas and their developing relationship and coming to common ground. I definitely think that they're going to be dating very, very soon. We get to see Kate reject her colleague who was interested in her after she shuts Gossip Girl down. He, you know, does this gesture, invites her out, and basically it's like, I was only part of Gossip Girl because you were part of it and I like spending time with you. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. And I think she only refuses him in this moment because she knows that Nicholas is kind of into her and has invited her to give out candy and do all of that kind of stuff, which is kind of cute. I honestly don't want to see Kate happy until she gives up Gossip Girl completely, because the biggest tracking storyline of this episode was like Gossip Girl, the morality of it, the ethics of it, and Kate is really questioning, like, what are they doing? Are they responsible for the terrible things that are happening to these kids? And do they need to take a step back or shut down Gossip Girl completely? And while her colleagues are pushing back of like, no, you don't get to make that decision by yourself, and we're doing a good thing, we're forcing people to have really great conversations, it's something that Kate struggles with throughout the episode. Ultimately, to decide that no, Gossip Girl is going to come back, but it's going to come back with a little bit more rules, like cutting the comment section off and being more of an editorial voice versus just a mass speaker for all the crap that everybody else wants to submit, which I do think is a good decision. But I ultimately, like, unless she takes Gossip Girl in a more clean cut and like intentionally helpful way or place, I don't want to see Kate happy. So I don't want to see Kate get Nicholas and be good and feel supported and all of that until she actually either give up Gossip Girl or run Gossip Girl in a less toxic and problematic way. Because my biggest concern from the very jump of this series is that these teachers are using Gossip Girl as a way to let out all their little insecure fantasies and create some type of faux confidence in themselves that they needed to develop with a damn therapist, some coffee, and their mama. They didn't need to do it by way of terrorizing these teenagers. And these teenagers themselves are already terrorists, right? They already are doing crappy stuff. And I understand how Gossip Girl is scaring some of them straight and all of that. But ultimately, I think the bigger thing that I was looking at in reference to the teachers being Gossip Girl is just the proof of the lack of maturity and the lack of confidence that these kids can't give the teachers. Like, regardless of how successful Gossip Girl is in ruining these kids' lives and making them fear the teachers in the school, that's not going to make you, Kate, feel like a strong writer. That's not going to make you feel desirable. That's not going to make you feel strong. That's not going to make you feel beautiful. You got to do that. Your lived experiences, your self-reflection, your self-work, all of that has to do that, sis. And I know I just kind of got on my soapbox, but that's my biggest issue when it comes to these teachers being the ones to run Gossip Girl. Also in this episode, we get to see, you know, Max and the creepy teacher's little relationship and how Aki is not having it. He's trying to protect Max as much as he can. And thank God Max finally wakes up by the end to see that this teacher is actually a predator. And I don't necessarily know how I feel about his character making a pivot, because I thought it was really dope how he was refusing Max's advances in the first few episodes, and then how he was searching for Max and trying to support Max through this time with his parents and all that. So then now for us to be in a place where it's really just trivialized to a little sexual relationship, and then we come to find out that he actually has history with his other students, so Max isn't special or anything. I'm like, all right, we're done here. Thank God Max is done here. He wakes up and realizes who is actually in his corner, who he actually should be giving time and energy into, and that is his friends. I will say that it was really good to see Zoya and Julien's beef or whatever little sisterly tensions that they initially had, that did not take front and center in this episode. Julien's storyline didn't take front and center at all. Like, they honestly became the comedic relief by way of this costume party and really set up us being able to see Monet in a different light. They go as Beyonce, Solange, and supposedly Jay-Z with her, Zoya, and Obie, but then the costume gets leaked and other people actually do it, which winds up ruining the surprise, and we come to find out that Monet is the one who actually leaked this secret because she is switching sides and going to rep or support or be the influencer manager of the girls who Julien is going up against in this episode. And it's like, God, good written, sis. Bye. Be gone. I'm really excited to see Monet and Luna split sides here. We see Luna stick by Julien, and Monet decides that Julien is not what she signed up for, and she done put in all this work, and it's just like, girl, what work? All you're doing is terrorizing people, and you really need to get what's coming for you. I hate the fact that I am rooting for some bad to happen to these girls, but Monet and Luna need to catch it. And honestly, Luna, just by the skin of her chinny chin chin in this episode and deciding to figure out who was behind it and discovering Monet and deciding to stick by Julien, that's the only thing that saved her, because I got hands and I've been waiting to throw them these girls' way the last 3 episodes. Like, come outside, square up, y'all are raggedy and you need an ass whooping. Let me deliver. And then the last major beats or storyline that happened in this episode was the Zoya and Obie relationship and them actually starting to drift apart, not necessarily thinking that they were actually aligned. Zoya still feels very much so like an outsider, and instead of talking to Obie or Obie talking to Zoya about how he's feeling in reference to her not showing up as his girlfriend and listening to him and all of this kind of stuff, they talk to other people. And unfortunately, Zoya winds up talking to an undercover reporter who's acting like he's a student and acting like he comes from where Zoya came from, acting like he actually rides the bus, and giving Zoya this idea, this fantasy idea of somebody else that she just bumped into in this world that's a complete outsider as well. So she immediately starts to fall smitten with this new friend, and that brings up feelings, and she starts to question her and Obie, and then come to find out, like, he is literally an undercover reporter who thinks that Zoya is Gossip Girl. I think that this is a brilliant storyline, especially in how they deployed it. However, Zoya, you should have known better. You should have talked to Obie about how you feel. Obie, you need to be talking to Zoya about how y'all feel. Y'all actually do seem like y'all are a really good match. So you cannot end this quickly. Y'all need to get it together and get it together now. There'll be a link in the description box for the live that I did on the day that Gossip Girl premieres. I talked with television critic Jake from ericavane.com. If you're interested in more Gossip Girl breakdowns, you can also go to ericavane.com and read up on all of our reviews and breakdowns that we have there as well. Before you watch another video, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you do not miss a Gossip Girl video or any other amazing video from the other series that I'm covering. Also, like the video because you made it this far in, so I know that you liked it. If you missed any of my Gossip Girl coverage, I have my Gossip Girl playlist for you on screen right now, as well as 2 suggestions for other series that I think you will love just as much. It's your girl Erica Vane. Go ahead and click play on that next video, and I'm gonna see you tomorrow in my next one. Bye.